Welcome back, everybody. It's Astro Self Care Sunday, and this is Kenya. And if you are new here, welcome. Welcome into this space. If you've been tuning in each Sunday, we just started this series of sharing some things about astrology to take the woo out, to demystify all of this, and to make it practical so that you can not just know or hear about or kind of be familiar about astrology, but actually use it. It's actually a tool. It's not just kind of fairy tale, oh, let's hear a nice little thing. It's actually extremely useful information that you can use for transformation, development, healing, and self care. So, welcome. I appreciate people tuning in. Thank you, and subscribing and liking. So, please make sure you subscribe if you are not already subscribed to my channel. And also make sure that you hit the notification so that whenever this hits on Sundays, you get a little notification so you know to come on in the room and watch the video. So I try to keep these videos. My goal is to keep them less than 30 minutes. So you can use this as a part of your Sunday self-care. I know a lot of people, Sundays is their church time, is their sanctuary time. I'm not saying that's what this is, but it is definitely a time for you to be able to just get some information, grab some education, but also be able to use it for caring for yourself. So this week, well, first of all, if you're just tuning in, we've started a series, and each Sunday right now, I'm going to be talking about the different zodiac signs. So last week was our first sign that we got into, and that was Aries. And so the second sign in the whole sequence of zodiac signs is Taurus. So if Taurus is your sun sign, meaning your main, when people ask you, what's your sign? And you say, oh, I'm a Taurus. That's your sun sign. So if it's your sun sign, if it's your moon sign, or if it's your rising, that means it's in your top three. Then you definitely want to tune in. And if it's not in your top three, you still want to tune in because you do have Taurus in your chart, because everybody has Taurus energy in them. Okay. So this is what's cool. If you're like, well, I don't know any of what is, then what you need to do is you need to go and you can Google literally birth chart. And and then when you Google that, you can get a number of resources where you for free can put in your birth information, and it will tell you what planet is with Taurus. Not everybody has a planet that is tied to Taurus. I don't have a planet, but it's still in my chart. Okay. And as we keep going in this series of educating you, taking the woo out, and doing the self care, you'll learn more what I mean by that. But just know this: if you're able to look at your chart, you're able to identify what planet is with Taurus. Then, if it's your sun, moon, or rising, that's a very dominant. Then, part Taurus is very pretty prevalent and pretty strong in how you navigate things. But if it's not one of those three, it's still very present. Okay, very present. It's just those top three we utilize are much more in our conscious energy. Okay. If you don't have a planet tied to Taurus, like I don't have a planet, it's still going to be tied to a house, which means it's tied to a particular part of your life. I'll get more into that as we keep going. I don't want to make this complicated because I'm trying to make this so that you really digest it. So if you're like, I don't know, but I know a Taurus, good. Okay. Because this is where you're going to learn a little bit more about Taurus. So the way that I usually set this up is I tell you some really key concepts, some key traits about the sign. And then we talk more about how the sign shows up in a very high frequency and a high productive energy, and then how the sign shows up in a lower frequency or lower energy that can be a little bit more challenging. Okay. And sometimes where the negative stereotypes sit. And then I'm going to talk about I'm going to give you a list of actual self care activities to consider doing, particularly if Taurus is in your top three. Okay. If it's not, you still can obviously do these. If you are interested in really learning a little bit more about your birth chart, just go to findingyourvoiceafter40.com/services, and you'll see about how I can connect with you and we can do an actual birth chart reading, or you can do a free discovery call just to get a little bit more information before booking that. And that can help you out a lot. Okay. All right. So let's get into this Taurus energy. And y'all, I have notes. Okay. So I don't, because while Oh, I guess listen, you can go back to some weeks ago. I introduced myself a bit more. You can read my description because I don't want to have to repeat all of that. But I do consider myself an astrology guidance coach. And so I've specialized in natal charts, meaning your birth charts, and really helping you navigate that, helping you better understand this lifetime, the soul's journey, and some of the challenges that the soul is going to be navigating, as well as the gifts that the soul has. Okay. But with that said, I still like to keep my notes so that I can be concise and with it. All right. So let's go over some of the key concepts and traits, okay, to remember. So, first of all, Taurus is known as the I have. So that's why I have that scrolling across there. It is the energy, Aries was the energy of I am. The phrase or the statement or the mantra for Taurus is I have. So if you can remember I have, what does that mean? When we say I have, automatically that's going to give a lot of clues as to how Taurus operates. So, Taurus, the dates for Taurus, typically for your sun sign, if you are a Taurus, that's April 20th, usually through May 20th. Okay. It's symbolized by the bull, and its element is earth. And anytime a sign is an earth element or a water element, that's considered a more feminine energy. Okay. Air and fire are considered more masculine. And that's really, again, it's not about gender, not about gender. Feminine energy is usually one that's more receiving, whereas masculine energy is more of doing and external. So feminine is more of the internal inner, masculine is more of the external outer. Okay. Taurus is a fixed sign. So it's a fixed earth. I have, right? It's already really telling you a lot of the energy, right? Fixed earth. Earth is stabilizing, fixed, literally being fixed. Okay. It's right in the middle of spring, right? It's not the start of spring. It's not considered the end of spring. Gemini actually brings the end of spring into summer. And we're going to talk about Gemini next week. Um, Taurus is ruled by Venus, so that's the planet that rules it. And just some other just quick notes, and this gets a little bit deeper, a little bit more advanced when we get into houses. It rules the second house. It's actually opposite of Scorpio. Its numerology is 6. It's really exalted when it's in the moon, when your moon sign is that, and it has a little bit more challenge if your Mars, Pluto, or Uranus is Taurus. Okay. And we're not going to get heavy into that because that gets a little bit deeper. I want us, though, to really get more focused when you're thinking about Taurus, to remember Taurus in case you're not familiar with all the signs, or you're familiar, but sometimes you're not sure exactly all the traits other than some of the more negative stereotypes. Again, Taurus is earth. It's fixed. It is the I have. It is symbolized by the bull. It tells you a lot about that. Okay. So, Taurus in its high frequency, when Taurus is doing its thing, when it's the beauty, because I really, really love Taurus energy. Okay. I am not a Taurus. I do not have even any, like I said, I have no planets in Taurus, but it does rule my 11th house, which is friendships. And so that's the part of my life that Taurus energy shows up more for me. Okay. And so again, what makes Taurus such a really, to me, wonderful energy? One is I just Scorpio and Taurus, because Scorpio is that water fix, Taurus is that earth fix. Typically, there's some nice connection there, because now the one thing is they're both fixed, so that can be sometimes a little bit challenging. But you think of what water does to dirt and to earth. It creates mud, which is very nutrient, right? It's very nutrient, but it is mud, right? So it can be, sometimes a little muddy. But what I love about Taurus energy is its resourcefulness. Okay, it's extremely resourceful. So in its high energy, um, understand that it's resourceful. It is looking for comfort and security. Okay, it wants, because of that fixed earth, again, that inner kind of energy. So comfort and security, a need, one of its really big needs. So especially if Taurus is in your moon, if your moon is Taurus, is this need for consistency and permanence. Okay. The I have, not I'm gonna get hopefully, but the I have. Okay. It also, being an earth sign, it has a little bit more need for that practicality and practical integration, okay, as opposed to kind of more the deep lofty, which is opposite that Scorpio, which is the water, a little bit more emotion ridden. It's like, no, let's be resourceful. Let's the I have and have practical integration with that. It also has a really big, the energy in this really high frequency is a need to be useful, but it has to be careful because it doesn't want to then become overbearing as a result of wanting to be useful. Okay. And so sometimes Taurus energy, that bull will say stubborn, or, even some people may feel a little bit of controlling, but that's more of its low frequency, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. The other thing, because it's ruled by Venus, and Venus is the planet of love and beauty and relationship, Taurus also then craves this relationship, with affection, and it's a patient kind of energy because of its wanting to have relationship to these finer kind of qualities, right? So it tends to have this patience to allow things to happen naturally, which in a lower frequency can appear as more of a stubborn energy, but really, again, what it is it's allowing, and in its high frequency, it's wanting things just to happen a little bit more organically. It's patient for that. It's artistic energy. It's very, it really owns and knows its own pace in a healthy space. Beauty and food and all those yummy material things, the nicer, finer life. Okay, Taurian energy is, it gravitates, and it needs that. And some people may, sometimes it might get a little bit of, I don't know, some people may not always appreciate that about Taurian energy, wanting kind of these finer things, but it's not the finer things as in, like, once you hit the materialistic without meaning, now you're in a lower frequency, okay, of Taurus, which I'm going to, go to now. But when it's in its high frequency, it's wanting to connect to the beautiful things to bring it in, and to have abundance, and to have a high quality, as opposed to quantity. Okay, so now let's flip over to some of the lower frequency energy and what Taurus has to be careful of. It can have that stubborn energy again if it's not really nurturing itself, if it's not creating alignment and balance. It can bottle things up because of that patience. That patience can turn now into kind of a weird little circle of just bottling up, bottling it up, bottling it up, and not releasing certain things that it needs to release, because its attempt is to try to keep things steady and consistent. And so then, if they are not getting the right kind of support, or they're not doing the right kind of self care, which I'm going to go through the self care items, it can get bottled up, and then, potentially explode, especially with envy, or try to be controlling when it's not feeling appreciated, and so forth. That explosive anger can happen as a result, more so because of the bottled up. So if there is more of balance, and there's ability to release, and ability to have groundedness and not stubbornness, then it can be more patient in spaces. But without it, it can be too fixated and bottled, and then that's where you're getting the explosive energy. Okay, and it can also, because of the love of food, one of the things Taurian energy has to be careful of is, how are they managing food? That love of food, if we're not having the alignment, if we're not having the consistency, if the needs are not being met, the food, just like with anybody, right? Food can be used emotionally, but Taurian energy can gravitate toward that quite quickly, subconsciously as well, and may not be aware. So you have to be careful to really make sure you're doing that self-care, and you are in the I have in a healthy way. Okay. All right, so let's go now into what are some of the self care activities that you can do if you have Taurus as your sun sign, moon, or your rising, or just if you have a family member or a loved one or a partner or a child, consider these things if they are, have Taurus. So there's a lot of different things that can be done. So I'm going to be kind of saying a pretty kind of long list, and I'm not going to go too in depth. I just want to be able to kind of name it for you. But sensory indulgence, again, if you can remember, Taurus is very connected to beauty and arts and food, the senses. It's like it really appeals to the five senses. Okay. So sensory indulgence, aromatherapy, taste, sounds, music, aesthetics, all of that can be really good self-care for the Taurian energy, connecting to nature. Because if you think of all the things that nature, one is connected obviously very much to earth, so it's grounding. But it appeals to all those sensory elements, right? Quality rest and sleep, because again, to allow that patience not to turn into slothiness or not to get too bottled up, a lot of really good release can be within the rest. Okay, sometimes Taurian energy has to be careful not to, if there's oversleeping, like sleeping way past kind of a typical routine, then Taurian needs to let's check into some other things that might be going on in life that may be pushing us in a lower frequency. Healthy, delicious meals, because food, like I said, is it's a big part of our sensory, it's a big part of our pleasure. And so, making sure that it is healthy so that we're not indulging too much in the decadent foods. Just make sure you're doing that for your self-care. Creative expression, absolutely. You will find that a lot of Taurus energy, you have a lot of artists, a lot of creatives who have Taurus in their top three. So the ability to express that in some kind of way, doesn't have to be for a career, doesn't have to be that, they're now got to go make money and partner with a business and become, no, maybe, but the ability to at least express that's going to be really important. Material comfort, which I mentioned earlier, mindfulness and meditation, really, really beautiful tool for Taurians, because again, that mindfulness and meditation, so that things do not get bottled up, so that there is integration, so that you can connect to the sensories and not get too fixated on something that's of a lower frequency. Meditating to release and just staying mindful keeps you present, right? And that's very helpful for Taurian energy. Financial wellness. Listen, Taurians don't want to be broke. A Taurus is that part of us. It's the energy where we want the stability, and beyond the stability, Taurian energy also wants to connect to finer things. So financial wellness is really important. When that is off, that can impact Taurian energy pretty heavily, because again, it's indicating that stability may be off. Okay, so that's more of what that's coming from. It's not gold digger. It's not trying to, be all material. It's just for, again, to create consistency, especially in our material world, our human, our ego world. There has to be some type of financial responsibility. Soothing music and sounds, again, that just really appeals to the sensory. Movement, exercise, going to be for pretty much every every sign. Okay, you cannot back away from it. And I just really want to like plug the aesthetic enjoyment. So visiting art galleries and museums, or attending concerts, and you know anything that creates some type of art appreciation, and art being dance, visual, music, any of that is really beautiful self-care for Taurian energy. So, I know that sometimes we put that as, oh, well, I hope I can get around to that, at some point or whatever. For Taurian energy, it's a really big part of keeping you feeling balanced and connected to soul and to the way that you're wired. So I just want to underscore that that's not just like one day. It really should be part of the regular activity for those who have Taurus in their top three. And then the last, which I think is kind of for everybody, is that gratitude practice. And again, gratitude practice, what it allows you to get out of the closed mindedness and fixate it maybe on some of the more challenging things going on, or some of the more negative things. Obviously, we all all can benefit from all of these things. But again, for Taurian energy, because while some energies doesn't necessarily get fixated in a certain space, like a Pisces is a more loose flow water. It actually has the complete kind of sometimes opposite of that. And so, but Taurus it has a tendency to be bottled up and closed up and fixated. So by creating gratitude practice, by creating these spaces of presence, it really just helps with all of that. Okay. So I hope that gives you just a nice kind of understanding in general of Taurian energy, the types of self care activities that you can do to really keep Taurus energy in alignment and in the higher frequency. Like I said, Taurus is the I have. And so when that is in jeopardy or in question or off, that is huge for our Taurian energy. And for all of us where we have Taurus, that is a big part of our needs. And so as I mentioned, Taurus for me sits in my 11th house, which is community, groups, networks, social groups, friendships. And so that I have in that, like that is really me being in community. Not necessarily with I got to be a part of, an organized necessarily group, but having a sense of consistency with that, having and I'm an artist and being able to be in community with the arts is huge for me. It's really huge. And it is definitely when I'm not in that, something feels off. So I look at where that sits in my chart. And so again, if you're needing a little bit help with, okay, I don't even know how to look at this chart. What do you mean by a chart? Like what's a birth chart? Again, just go to findingyourvoiceafter40.com/services and we can talk for free for a free moment. Or you can just send an email or just put a question. Definitely put your questions in the comments. I meant to say that earlier because we will bring up those questions each week. Okay. So, speaking of questions, the question for this week before we sign off is: can astrology be used for relationship compatibility? Is this a myth? Is this true? What's up with that? Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I've actually thought about doing some, particular workshops just talking about relationship compatibility and the signs and astrology and how it can be used and absolutely though because again, the every energy how I mentioned with the Scorpio and the Taurus, the water and the earth creating the mud nutrient. If you think of how that becomes, kind of nutrients, the water kind of creates a nutrient environment for growth. Um, yes, absolutely. And you will find, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, you're a, Pisces, I can't be with you," or "You're a Leo, we're going to get married tomorrow." Like not, it's not that simple. It's not that simple because it's not just about your sun sign, right? It's about a whole bunch of other things about your moon and your Venus and where they sit in relationship with each other and all the things. But it absolutely can be used to better understand just how compatible that. I don't think there's any two signs where it's just like, oh, nope, never going to work. It's there is just when we talk about compatibility, there's kind of modes, right, of compatibility or a spectrum. There's very high compatibility, very high likelihood. Then there can be more a lower likelihood or a lower chance. But depending on your development, your growth, where you are in your awareness of your energies, how you project, all of that can really dictate compatibility. Okay. Everything is working together, everything. And we have, again, every sign in us. So, there is potential for anything, right? But there are certain energies, there are certain aspects of astrology, certain signs that do complement each other, enhance each other a bit more, and create a little bit more flow. There's others that may have a little bit more challenge, but that obviously doesn't equal not. Right. But it can help you at least get a better idea of based on where you are in your journey and in your development, what might be a little bit more compatible for you. So yeah, absolutely can be used for that indeed. All right. All right. Well, that is it for today's Astro Self Care Sunday. That is the Taurian energy. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it, if you found it valuable. Make sure you share it, let other people know. want to keep getting the word out because, again, my goal here is to take the woo out of astrology, to demystify it, but also for it not to just be a bunch of information in your head, for you to actually use it. Okay. Understand it and use it. Do these self care things. See how it makes you feel. See if it helps. See if you feel a better sense of calm and relaxation and grounding. That's really what all of this is intended for. All right. So next week we'll be back. We'll be talking about Gemini. Gemini energy will hit our first air sign. So I hope to see you guys there. All right. You enjoy your weekend and your week whenever you're watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.